Meet the Maitlands, a young, happily married couple who are spending their holiday time together doing up their beloved house. Well, that is until this little bastard inadvertently sends them on their merry way into the afterlife. Yep, the Maitlands are now dead, and they have no idea what to do. All they know is that they are stuck in their house seemingly for the rest of eternity, and the only clue they have is an old book aptly titled Handbook for the Recently Deceased, which has somehow appeared in their home. As the Maitlands struggle to figure it all out, they get the shock of their afterlives with the arrival of the Dietzes, a yuppie family from New York City who move into their home and have a completely different idea as to how the place should look. Barbara and Adam figure, hey, we're dead. That means that we're ghosts, so that means we can scare them out of here. But that doesn't go to plan, seeing as how, according to the handbook, the living won't usually see the dead. The Maitlands discover the existence of Beetlejuice, a supernatural entity who works as a bioexorcist and claims to be able to rid the homes of the pesky living. The Maitlands summon forth Beetlejuice in the hopes that he will be the answer to their problems, but instead it opens up a huge can of worms and chaos ensues. Beetlejuice is one of those films that's just very difficult to categorise. It's a horror, it's a comedy, it's a ghost story, it's a drama. It's all these things at once, and I dare say, it just about borders on being a musical in some ways. It came out towards the end of the 80s, round about the same time as other quirky and strange films such as Howard the Duck, Weird Science, Big Trouble in Little China, and Mannequin, to name just a few. It's also a movie that you struggle to try and explain. I mean, how do you try and make sense of this movie's depiction of the afterlife? How do you explain Barbara and Adam disappearing to Saturn and being attacked by giant sandworms whenever they try and leave the house? Yeah, I don't have a bloody clue neither. But that's the beauty of this film. It doesn't need to be explained, it just needs to be watched and taken for what it is, and I really miss films like this. I think all too often this day and age we desire explanations for every little detail, and that kind of mindset can just ruin an experience. The production design in Beetlejuice is a joy to see. Tim Burton is renowned for his gothic, weird and creepy aesthetic, and it really shows here. He and his production designer did a fantastic job of bringing their vision of the afterlife to the screen. One of the movie's many great scenes that shows this off has to be in the waiting room scene. I love the idea that in death you look exactly as you do when you died. You see a man who died from choking on a chicken bone, a magician's assistant who got cut in half, a hunter who got his head shrunk, and there's lots of little details here, and I'd love seeing that effort being made. And let's talk about these performances. Michael Keaton as the titular character is phenomenal. Beetlejuice is a repulsive character. Rude, aggressive and downright perverse, he gets under your skin and makes you itch. But he's also shockingly funny. From the get-go he's out to cause trouble, and at first you think he's some sort of lovable rogue, but he ends up showing his dark side when he attempts to scare the Dietzes out of the Maitlands' home in a scene that, I'm not going to lie, scared the shit out of me as a kid. It was at that point you realise this dude isn't fucking around, and the Maitlands definitely have made a mistake in summoning him. Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis as Adam and Barbara are great. They play off one another really well and their on-screen chemistry feels organic. But according to Baldwin, he dislikes the movie as he wasn't happy with his performance. I guess it's a little clunky in places, but overall I think he did a really good job. And we have a young Winona Ryder who does a stellar job as the Dietzes' daughter Lydia. She's the only living person that can see Adam and Barbara, and she develops a close relationship with them. Lydia is clearly at odds with the world around her, and the afterlife slowly begins to become an attractive option to her. All great movies have that signature scene that always gets talked about, and for Beetlejuice it's got to be the dinner party scene where Adam and Barbara possess the Dietzes and their guests. As the dinner party gets underway, the guests find themselves doing a rendition of Harry Belafonte's Deo against their will. There's some fine acting on show here as the actors jump between being completely possessed by the Maitlands to brief flashes of bewilderment and confusion as their bodies and voices act separately from their own consciousness. Tim Burton was worried this scene would fall flat for the audience and he didn't find it very funny, but alas, it became the scene that gets talked about whenever people discuss the film. Beetlejuice, like most of Tim Burton's movies, is one of a kind. It might not be everybody's cup of tea, but you can't deny that it has a charm and a wackiness to it that very few movies can achieve or replicate. Personally, I think it's great and well worth checking out if you haven't already.